Hello everyone, in this video we will be seeing part 11 of What If Naruto Was the Direct Descendant of Sparda. So be sure to stick around until the end. Let's get started. Naruto now sat in the open field within the peaceful town they currently resided in, sitting in a meditative position to help himself relax. Several long days passed after his fight with Tsunade, and the woman had yet to show herself and answer the terms of their bet. He wasn't sure on what her current thoughts on the matter were, seeing as how she hasn't been to the village in a lot of years. But all he knew was that she needed to suck it up if she wanted to get through this. Besides, it's not like she could just run away from him, as he knew her scent easy enough to follow her like a shark in the water smelling fresh blood. He was currently trying a new method of control for both his chakra and the Rasengan technique. The process was bringing two Rasengans in his hands, both supplied with equal amounts of chakra, but instead had them rotate in both clockwise and counterclockwise motion. He figured that this would not only help him in his control of his chakra, but would also help him in creating more sick Rasengan techniques. However, it was far easier said than done, as the first time he did this, the damn thing exploded in his face and almost took off his entire arm, had his healing not kicked in that moment. This wasn't the only time that has happened, as many more times that would happen, and he would get injuries that would no doubt either kill him or make him look deformed in some kind of way. He knew that he had to keep practicing this method if he truly wanted to get stronger in his chakra control. Then he would be able to do many things in the infinite world of ninjutsu. His thoughts on the matter were interrupted as he heard the sounds of footsteps approaching him. He took in the scent that protruded in the air and recognized it as Shizune. "What is it that you wish to discuss with me, Shizune-san?" Naruto said with his eyes closed, causing the black-haired girl to gasp in surprise before she shook it off, already knowing that the boy had heightened senses. "Naruto-san, do you have a second? I want to talk to you about something," she said with Naruto sighing before he spoke to the girl, having a distinct feeling that he knew what she was going to ask of him. He quickly deactivated his Rasengans and looked in Shizune's direction, who had to say that she was quite the looker to his eye, although her power level was something to frown upon if he ever had a one-on-one fight with her. "It depends on what the subject is," Naruto said, seeing Shizune look down for a moment before she spoke in a slightly low tone but still loud enough for the boy to hear her. "It's about your bet with Tsunade. That necklace has brought nothing but pain and misery to Tsunade, after both her little brother and fiancé died one day after receiving it from her. If you get the necklace, it will only result in your death," she said with Naruto snorting before he spoke to the black-haired woman. "Listen, Shizune-san, I can understand the pain of losing a loved one, but the end, what does that compare to? I know several people back in the village and throughout the elemental countries that went through shit that was 10 times harder than what she gone through, myself included. In fact, one of my girlfriends was forced to kill her own father after watching him murder her mother right before her very eyes, then lose another person that was very dear to her later on in life. My best friend had to endure hardship in his shinobi career because he can't use chakra, and people laughed at him for it. I got stories that are even deeper than the latter of those two, so ask yourself something. What makes Tsunade's problems worse than theirs? What makes her past worse than the hell I had to endure growing up?" Naruto said with Shizune unable to answer him. He was right. What made Tsunade so special when it was rumored that in Kumogakure the current Raikage tried to use the Nibi vessel as a sex slave. It was said that, before he even had the opportunity to do so, the Nibi reacted and obliterated the man's left arm to ash before escaping to a foreign land. It was even stated that the Shishibi's vessel was hunted by her best friends and comrades when news of her demon was released all over Taki. The results were said that she killed all of them and quickly fled the area to a foreign country. Many more sad stories were heard along the shinobi world, and some were even worse than those of the Jinchurikis. She thanked him for his time and left the scene with Naruto going back to his training. Tsunade currently hid behind a tree and watched the two converse before hearing what he said. She felt her head sink before she disappeared in a puff of smoke. Apparently she needed to answer her terms of the fight, and soon. Elsewhere, Konoha's hospital. Haruno Sakura sat by the bedside of a still-downed Uchiha Sasuke, watching him as he slept while her mind went over what she was told. Team 7, her team was no more after getting news that Kakashi was relieved of his duties as the sensei of Team 7. Sasuke was currently suspended after what he did after his match, and Naruto was promoted to an elite Jonin. To further make matters worse, she was now on the same team as that girl she fought in the Chunin exam prelims. After that defeat by the girl's hands in the prelims, she felt like Naruto's words were finally telling her the truth about herself. That she was a true weakling. She was brought out of her thoughts when the appearance of another entered the room. She turned to the person's direction and saw that it was Ino brining in a vase filled with fresh flowers and setting it down on the table next to Sasuke's bed. The blonde-haired girl smiled at her friend, but saw that she didn't respond and asked about it. "What's wrong, forehead girl? Why are you so gloomy?" Ino asked with Sakura beginning to sniff in the air. "I suppose you haven't heard, my team has been disbanded," she said with the blonde-haired girl gasping before she spoke. "Oh, so that what the news was? I just heard that Naruto was promoted to Elite Junin and was currently out of the village. Man, Sakura, why isn't he all over you anymore, especially now that he's so strong?" she said with Sakura sniffling again before she spoke. "I don't know why anymore, Ino. One day I have a team and the next we are all separated. Why did this have to happen, Ino? We were supposed to become friends, yet all that happened was the three of us becoming even further separated than before. Kakashi-sensei is no longer my sensei, Sasuke-kun has been suspended, Naruto is a Junin now, and I'm on a different team now," she said before she could no longer hold it in, and felt the tears leave her eyes. Ino quickly walked over to the pink-haired girl and began to rub her back. "Why doesn't he care anymore? Why doesn't he let me in? I'm just trying so hard to make us all become friends, but all that did was cause us to drift away. What's wrong with me?" she asked between sniffles. "I don't know, Sakura. Naruto has always tried to get you to look at him for a while, but you never answered him until after he changed. Sasuke-kun will probably never let his revenge leave his mind, and you need to make yourself stronger. That's the most you can do now," Ino said with the girl still crying but was getting what the other girl was saying. It was time for a change. Meanwhile, Anko was currently training in a private ground away from the village's eyes. She had been working on using the guitar that she somehow gotten from the mark Naruto gave her after their little time of pleasure a while ago, although it was about time for them to have a second round and she wanted it soon. The purple-haired woman was also happy that she could actually say that she was with someone that truly cared for her, even though he was just a soon-to-be 14-year-old. As she continued to train, she felt the presence of someone very familiar and found a smirk come to her face. "Hey Kure-chan, what brings you by?" she asked, still training herself to become stronger. Kurenai paused for a moment and was surprised at how much she has changed, as even her voice sounded a little more mature. If it's true, then Naruto really did bring something out of her that she never knew existed. Kurenai thought, although she knew that while Anko may have changed, she was still the same immature girl that she called her best friend. "I just came by to see how you were doing after the whole change thing you underwent," she said with Anko stopping for a moment before continuing her exercise. "You like it? Naruto-kun picked it out for me. He said that in order for me to become a chosen among his future brides that I would have to start off brand new. Nothing in my past must follow me in my future. He said that my attitude doesn't have to since my immaturity is part of my charm," she said before stopping and acknowledged her friend. Said friend was grabbing her arm and squeezing it once every 3 seconds, telling Anko that there was more to this than what meets the eye. She bit her lip in for a moment before she spoke. "Anko-chan, why are you with him anyway? What does he have that another man doesn't?" she asked with Anko raising an eyebrow before she spoke. "He's not like any other guy we know in this village. You should know after what Asuma did," she said watching Kurenai stiff, knowing why. She and Asuma secretly dated for more than 2 years, and it looked like they were ready to go to the next level, or at least that was how Kurenai saw it. Asuma on the other hand was cheating on her with other women, and had been doing it since the very beginning of their relationship, and I know I'm making Asuma look like an asshole, but it does happen in real life, plus I'm not even involving him in this story, just a few cameos. When she found the two in the apartment they shared, she immediately threw him out of the house and broke up with him on the spot. That was why she never stood beside him during certain Junin meetings or stood beside Kakashi whenever they were needed for briefing on their teams. "Look, Kurenai, if you want a good guy, then don't be so quick to judge men like many of the females in their village do. Try someone like Guy or Yamato or maybe even," she was saying before she was cut off. "Naruto?" Kurenai said with Anko looking shocked by that before she spoke again. This time her surprise was slowly leaving as she spoke. "Yeah, I guess he would count as one of them. However, if you want to get with him, you'll have to do a lot in order to do so," Anko said with Kurenai nodding before she turned to leave. "Thanks, Anko, I'll keep that in mind," she said as she turned to leave before Anko spoke. "He likes to be surprised," she said with Kurenai looking confused at that. "What?" she asked with Anko talking again. "Just make sure that you talk to him first and hang out with him, then see what happens. Who knows, you could be the next girl on his list," she said with Kurenai looking surprised only to nod and walk away. Maybe she should look outside the box for once. Mindscape Naruto. Naruto now stood in the same room that he fought his clones within and saw that it changed from what it once was. The room was now a radiant gold color, with a feeling being very calm yet forceful in its standing of strength. After the fusion he underwent with his clones, he could feel his body become complete and his power growing exponentially, yet nothing truly changed within him. He felt the same as before, yet different at the same time. So what was this feeling he was having? "It's your demonic blood, your ascension reacting with your body, master," said the voice of Nevin, as she entered the room. Naruto looked puzzled by her showing, Knowing that he didn't even alert QB of his presence here, knowing what he was feeling, Nevin walked up to him and placed her arms around his waist and began to feel around his body. "It's your scent that alerted me to your presence here, master," she said as she began to kiss his neck, which made him feel a little aroused. "But how? I can't even smell it," Naruto said with Nevin coming to his front side with her arms around his neck. "You can't, it's your pheromones that are alerting me to you. They are coming off of you like rushing water through a river," she said before planting a small kiss on him before she pulled back. "Your pheromones are indicating that you are reaching your ascension into your demonic blood really soon, and the fusion with your clones were the result of your power output increasing further than normal," she said before Naruto spoke. "But I can't sense it, so how do you know it's there?" he asked. "You're not supposed to. It's only used by demons to attract potential mates from a crowd, be it male or female. Some demons are able to direct their pheromone level at anyone they chose, while others don't even get the opportunity to do so, which was why a lot of them took to possessing the body of humans to mate with another. You do have control over it now, but you must be extremely careful around women when you enter your ascension. If that were to happen, you may find yourself trapped in a sea of female bodies trying to ravage every part of your body," she said with him looking scared at that. "Another thing you need to know is that your demonic side will also have a little more influence over you, as you'll have a tendency to cause more destruction than usual, and your sexual drive will increase as well, although that's more of the fun part through this whole procedure. There are other things you'll develop through this process, but they are what you do normally, just have a stronger desire for," she said with Naruto nodding before he looked around the room. "So tell me, is this supposed to be my excess chakra?" he asked with Nevin answering with a smirk. "Yes, master, this is all the power that your body that is just itching to be vented throughout your body. It seems that all you will need is one thing. And that would be? A trigger." The following day, Naruto and Shizune were now racing to find Tsunade, as she just told the boy that they were attacked by Orochimaru. She said that they were just talking to each other, then next thing they know, Orochimaru, along with Kabuto, came to them. He tried to get her to heal his arms in exchange for the revival of her loved ones, but the blonde woman refused the offer and was now chasing the two through the outskirts of the village. Naruto knew that if they didn't get there fast enough, then Tsunade could very well die. After all, snakes do not play fair in a fight. As they continued on, Jiraiya appeared beside the two, and soon they charged as fast as they could. With Tsunade, the two Konoha traders landed on the ground near each other before just as quickly separating, as Tsunade appeared and slammed her leg on the ground in between the two men. The result was a deep crater forming in the ground as the two landed on the ground. Kabuto marveled at the freakish strength Tsunade possessed, while Orochimaru narrowed his eyes at the blonde woman. Tsunade quickly hopped out of the crater before she cracked her knuckles, before looking at Orochimaru with a scowl on her face. "I cannot tell you how much I've been waiting to knock your teeth down your throat," she said before removing her green jacket. The woman then charged at the two shinobi with her fist cocked back and prepared to punch the lights out of the snake. Orochimaru and Kabuto once more separated apart, which left Tsunade to slam her fist on the ground once more, causing a crater to form. The snake ninja landed on the ground before looking up to find Tsunade back in front of him and slammed her right fist into his face. The Konoha trader felt like he just stopped a boulder with his face and lost the fight severally. Orochimaru landed on his back and slid along the ground before he got back up to his feet, skidded across the ground. Tsunade was about to attack him again before Kabuto appeared before her and sliced his hand. When the blood came out of the wound instantly, he wasted not a single second and flung it into the woman's direction. The second the red liquid touched her face, her body froze in shock. Her whole momentum was stopped cold, as she fell to her knees and began to tremble as the haunting memories of her loved ones lying in a pool of blood, and she was powerless to stop their deaths. She now went from a speeding bull to a frightened kitten in seconds, and now the two traders of Konoha was basking in the glory of this sight. "Look at you, Tsunade, so unbecoming of a Sannin. It's no wonder that you are the weakest of the three, and now today you shall join your loved ones. Kabuto, take care of her quickly, but don't damage her body too much. Her Senju clan blood will make many decent experiments for us in the future," he said with Kabuto nodding, and approached the prone body with a kunai in hand. He raised it above his head to stab her between the eyes and brought it down only to be shocked when it was blown out of his hand. He then turned his head to find Naruto standing in the area holding Angel in his hand along with his weapon Ario's in appearance. Naruto then pulled out Reaper and let loose several more bullets that caused Kabuto to hop back before the wind-enhanced bullets hit him. Naruto cursed loudly before he appeared in front of Tsunade along with Jiraiya and Shizune, who took to Tsunade's aid quickly. Naruto looked at the blonde woman's prone body and sighed deeply before he looked towards the two traders. "That hemophobia can be a real bitch in battle. I can see how you two are such pussies that you gotta play on a person's weakness in battle. Naruto said with Kabuto stepping up with his smug smirk on his face. It matters not what you think, Naruto-kun, for you shall soon be dead. You should know when you're going up against someone out of your league, he said before he was forced to dodge another bullet from Naruto's gun. You're right, pussy, you are below my league as I don't take pride in fighting or beating a woman by using her fear against her, Naruto said with Orochimaru scowling at the white-haired boy before he spoke to his subordinate. Kabuto, enough of this nonsense. Take care of that boy while I take care of Jiraiya. I'll kill Tsunade after this is all said and done, Orochimaru said before vanishing along with Jiraiya and reappeared in a separate location in the field. Kabuto smirked as he pulled out 2 kunais and held them in front of his body. Naruto only tightened his hold on his guns before taking the first shot by bringing up Reaper and quickly fired off 1 round. Kabuto immediately dodged and charged at the white-haired boy with his arms frailing behind him. Kabuto neared the boy and sent a right to Naruto's jugular vein. The boy knocked his opponent's arm away before bringing up his right arm and fired off another round. Kabuto managed to narrowly dodge before sending another slash at the boy's eyes. Naruto ducked under the strike before bringing the gun to the silver-haired medic's face. Kabuto cues loudly before he bent backwards as Naruto pulled the trigger barely a tenth of a second later. The bullet grazed his chin, which caused a small cut to appear on his chin, but the boy didn't bother with that for the moment. Kabuto then spun on the heels of his feet and took a swipe at Naruto's legs. Naruto then hopped into the air and angled his body over Kabuto, so he was looking straight down on the silver-haired medic. Kabuto looked up in time to find a smirking Naruto looking down on his before the boy spoke. Time to die, was all he said as he spun his body and let loose a hail of bullets in that spot. Kabuto could only look up as 2 bullets went through his eyes, his headband and out the back of his skull, then various other places that would result in an instant death. When Naruto began to feel his descent coming, he stopped his hail before he flipped himself in the air and landed firmly on the ground. He looked back at the body of Kabuto and saw that the body was still durable after all that, but he simply smirked at that, before he felt something stab him in his back. He turned to find a second Kabuto standing behind him with his kunais embedded in his back, while the other Kabuto he shot multiple times turned into a puff of smoke. Naruto scowled at the silver-haired medic, who simply smirked his arrogant at him. I told you that I was out of your league, he said with Naruto scowling before a smirk came to his own face. And I told you that you were out of mine, snake fucker, great clone explosion, he said with Kabuto's eyes widening before the boy exploded in front of him. Naruto smirked as he saw the Konoha traitor being consumed in the smoke. The boy then prepared for the boy's next attack since that only held enough power to take out a small boulder. Kabuto would take damage, but he would not die from the explosion. Indeed, his predictions were correct as Kabuto's silhouette appeared in the clearing smoke before it vanished to reveal a disheveled figure of Kabuto, with small trails of smoke coming off his cloths with his glasses hiding his eyes from view. Look at you, Kabuto. Now you truly are what I know you are, a flamer, he said with Shizune, looking up for a moment before she began to laugh loudly. Tsunade seemed to get out of her funk from that joke and was now looking on to the boys' fight. Kabuto snarled at the white-haired boy before he glared at the smirking white-haired boy. You bastard, look at what you did to me. I'm going to enjoy killing you, then dissecting your body for future experiments, he said, before doing some seals, and caused chakra to form around his hands. Naruto simply smirked at that before he raised his right arm and caused the spines on his back to pop off. Kabuto still looked determined to kill, although he had no idea what he was in for. Naruto then raised Reaper and fired of several bullets, which caused the spines to do the same. Kabuto back-flipped at that before he charged at the white-haired boy with his arm behind his back again, held like a claw. Naruto hopped to the side as Kabuto slammed his hand on the ground before charging at the boy, causing Naruto to get back on the defensive. Kabuto sent multiple strikes to the boy's heart, only for Naruto to block with his arms at high precision. Kabuto prepared for another strike, but Naruto had enough, and commanded the spines to shoot razor-sharp wind at the silver-haired medic, who then jumped as the wind hit the ground. Naruto then focused chakra into his weapons before they were fully charged. He then aimed his guns at the boy before letting loose a barrage of fire at the Konoha traitor. The other boy dodged with high speed, as the blast continued to fire but would not hit the motherfucker. Soon Naruto became tired of this and got an idea on what he could do. He dismissed Arios and replaced it with the Devilbringer before he ran straight towards Kabuto, who was surprised by the sudden burst of speed by the white-haired boy and tried to take a jab at the boy's heart. Naruto immediately grabbed the other boy's arm and held him still before holding up his right hand. I knew you were weak. You should have known that I would try to bring you in faster than you could muster, he said before he held up his right hand and formed a Rasengan in his hand, but this one was infused with the power of the Devilbringer, turning it from a regular blue to a celestial blue. Say hello and goodbye, Devilbringer Rasengan, he said before slamming the orb into Kabuto's head, causing the boy's head to explode. The sight was unbelievable, as Naruto just killed one of Orochimaru's top shinobi. Tsunade looked on in shock, as the boy used a technique that took the creator 3 years to create and master. The boy was truly amazing, and she now knew that she truly did lose her fight against the white-haired boy, as he had weapons she never seen before, and if he used those in their fight, then he would certainly be the victor hands down. It appeared that she lost another bet, but this time it didn't feel like she lost something. Both Orochimaru and Jiraiya stopped their battle to look on in wonder. Jiraiya smirked at the success of his godson in killing one of Orochimaru's top lackeys, while said Snake Sanin wasn't so happy. Kabuto held many talents outside of his medical abilities, and now the boy was dead. He lost a great deal of strength to his army, and to make matters worse, it was by a snot-nosed brat no older than 14. He needed to die and fast, or else his annoyance would escalate to new heights. As such, he charged at the white-haired boy with his sword coming out of his mouth. Tsunade saw this, and ran to the boy's location, trying to get there before Naruto would receive a stab that would kill him. As Orochimaru neared the boy, Naruto shocked him by grabbing his sword with his demonic arm. Orochimaru looked on in shock before receiving a hard right by Tsunade. The Snake Sanin rolled along the grass before coming to a complete stop, and looked at the elite Jonin approaching him. "Do you truly believe that I would just allow you to try to kill me?" he said with Orochimaru growling before he spoke. "You hear me well, boy, I will return, and when I do your power will be mine," he said before he fused with the ground. Naruto sighed as he turned his arm back to normal. Tsunade along with Jiraiya and Shizune stood before him as he smirked at them. "Looks like this is a job well," he was saying before he felt something was wrong. He began to feel his heartbeat increase drastically as he grabbed his chest to try to contain the pain. The boy fell over on the ground with Tsunade and Shizune rushing to the scene, while Jiraiya stood by to watch the two medics work on his godson. 3 days later. Naruto groaned loudly as he grabbed hold of his head. Whatever the hell that was, he knew for a fact that he would not want to go through that again. "Kit, you should be glad that those two medics were there, or else you would have most likely died," Kyuubi said with Naruto sighing before he grabbed his chest. "What the hell happened? That Kabuto kid used a ninjutsu on you before you killed him. It didn't take effect until after you stopped your fight with Orochimaru," he said with Naruto nodding. "Master, I think I should also tell you that the two women wish to mate with you," Nevin said with Naruto's eyes widening. "What? But how?" he asked with the succubus responding. "When you went out you lost control of your pheromones and they began to leak around you like a water does to a hole. The blonde one was already attracted to you, but when that happened it turned from little attraction to full-blown sexual desire," Nevin said with Naruto looking a little scared at that. "You mean that I have to have sex with her?" Naruto said. "I'm afraid you have to, Kit, or else she will hunt you down and eventually do it. That cousin of yours did the same thing when he used his technique on that sound girl, so she had a sexual desire that needed to be settled immediately, but I doubt that it will truly leave. In truth, Kit, no matter what you do, you're stuck with those two," Kyuubi said, knowing firsthand what it is like to lose control of your pheromones. In fact, that was how the Nibby fell in love with him, as he lost control of the pheromones in his body with the Nibby nearby. When they went off, she came to him like a moth to a flame. "Damn, I can't believe I let me guard down like that," Naruto thought, as he laid back down on the bed and grabbed his head. "You actually shouldn't feel too bad, Kit. This could be more of a positive than a negative. She could keep Anko in line whenever you are not around and can run the house when you are on missions," Kyuubi said before Naruto's attention was drawn away from the conversation. He looked to the side to see Tsunade entering the room he currently resided in alone. The blonde-haired woman had a smirk on her face as she walked into the room and sat next on the boy's bed. "That was quite the scare you gave us, kid. How are you holding up?" she asked with Naruto noticing that her necklace was no longer around her neck. "I've been through worse, although how are you feeling? Are you ready to go back?" he said with the woman nodding her head before her hand began to creep a little closer to his leg. What are you doing?" Naruto asked, although that made it worse on him. "What do you think I'm doing?" she asked before she got closer to the white-haired boy before she had her body in front of him. I don't know, but I'm not sure you do either," he was saying with Tsunade smirking at him. She then surprised him by grabbing his arms and slammed him on the bed with her body hovering over his. "Look, Naruto-kun, I know that we agreed that if you won our fight then I would go back to the village with you, but now I want to add a little stipulation to that," she said with Naruto looking at her with a slightly scared look on his face. "And what would that be?" he said until the woman went down on his body so that she was lying on top of him and her head located near his ear. "It's another fight but of a different kind than your usual battle. If you win, then not only will I return to the village with you, but I'll even agree to be one of your future wives. But if I win, then I still return, but I get you for all to myself for a week," she said before she pushed herself back up. knowing that no matter what he did he wasn't leaving this room until she got what she wanted. While she may not have been as talented in creating seals as Jiraiya, she still knew how to make the mediocre ones such as the locking seal. But what about Shizune? Wouldn't she be left out? Naruto asked, even though he knew that the girl would have done the same thing Tsunade was doing if she had the opportunity. I suppose she can get in on this as well, but you would have to go through me first, she said with Naruto sighing, since the woman probably placed something to forbid his escape. Sighing once more, Naruto looked at her, which caused her to lower her body and kissed him on his lips. Later on, Naruto and the rest of the group now stood before a tired Sarutobi Hiruzen, as he just downed what was probably his 15th drink. He knew never to underestimate the white-haired boy, but this took the cake hands down. Not only did he have sex with Tsunade, she was now back to her young age of 30. Plus, to make matters more stressful, she agreed to become one of his future wives. She also said that Shizune was in on this as well, which made the old man truly wish that he had used the seal instead of Minato. He was getting too old for this shit. Okay then. I suppose that you plan to move into his home, he said with the blonde woman nodding her head. Very well then, I'll arrange for that in a moment, but first I need to discuss something with you, Naruto, he said with the white-haired boy looking his way. Recently, it came to us that two girls was seen entering a land known as Amazon country. A country that is filled with a race of women that despise men but respects only those that earn it. It has also been rumored that those two girls are fellow Jinchuriki, he said with Naruto looking a little surprised at that. I'm surprised by this. Has Akatsuki been given any word on this? He asked with the old man sighing before he looked at him. The Akatsuki is dead, he simply said with Naruto's eyes widening along with the other shinobi in the room. What? But how? Who could be able to kill 9 S-class level shinobi? Jiraiya said as he remembered it due to his years of gathering information on them. It's unsure of how at this point, but what we can disclose is this. All are dead except 2, as one of the survivors was Hoshigaki Kisame. He went to Kumogakure after getting a mission from the leader before he was killed. He went there to get the two-tailed holder, but she was missing, so he instead went after their second Jinchuriki, named Yotsuki Kirabi. The end result was the man being decapitated by both the vessel and their Raikage, and the vessel taking hold of the sword that man held. He said with Naruto looking surprised before he spoke up. So what will happen now? He asked with Hiruzen sighing. I don't know, but all you need to know is that you are safe. Right now I want you to rest up as we sort this whole thing out, he said before Naruto left the room and looked at the two women. Shizune gave him a wink while Tsunade gave him a kissing motion. Shaking his head, the boy left the room as Hiruzen looked towards his former students. Now Tsunade, are you ready to become Hokage? 3 days later. Naruto could now be seen relaxing in the Forest of Death after a hard session of training, wearing only a white wife-beater and black shorts. He knew that he needed more training to improve himself further than before, as he was beginning to feel his power slowly increasing, and with the amount that he felt within, he knew that the moment he received the power, it would fuck him up tremendously. As such, Kyuubi suggested that he work on his chakra control for now, as he would need to improve his control first so that when the ascension came, he would be somewhat ready for it. He then heard the sound of footsteps approaching him, and turned to find Anko walking to his location without her glasses, along with a smirk on her face. The woman could tell that he was working hard, as his sweat glistened off his skin like he was covered in oil. She almost felt the need to relieve herself of the sight at that very moment. How you holding up? She asked with Naruto sighing as he took a swig from his water bottle before he answered. It's still challenging, but I'll need to do a lot more work to improve myself, he said with Anko nodding before a heavy silence came over the two before Anko spoke up. Hey, you know that this place is great for privacy, right? In fact, you can scream as loud as you want, and only those that are nearby would hear it, she said with Naruto smirking at that as well. What do you have in mind? He said as he stood up with Anko closing the gate between them and pressed him up against the tree behind him, with her body lying on top of his. She traced her fingers along his exposed chest area while Naruto let his hand travels down to her butt and began to squeeze and enjoy the feeling of it in his hands. Oh, I don't know, I've been thinking that since I've been good for about a week, we kinda do something to reward my good behavior, she said before looking Naruto in the eye, who currently had an offish look on his face. I suppose we could do something to reward you, but I'm afraid that it would restart you at square one, he said with Anko pouting before she got a small smile. Well, it is tempting, but I think I can regain what I lost, she said with Naruto looking off for a moment longer before he shrugged his shoulders. I guess we can just keep this to ourselves, he said before kissing the purple-haired woman, while her hands grabbed the neck of his shirt and soon ripped it in half, exposing his chest to her. Naruto's hands traveled up the woman's body before reaching the front and removed the buttons on her shirt until it was open to expose her breast to him. Breast that his hand grabbed the moment they came out. Anko moaned loudly, while Naruto began to kiss along her neck and fondling the girl's erect nipples. Anko soon began to grind her hips along his crouch, before her hands traveled to his pant line and pushed the shorts down, exposing his boxers as well before they too were taken down. Once that happened, all Naruto had between her and him was her short pants that was quickly discarded along with her shirt, leaving on a pair of lingerie that she wore under it until that was gone as well. Naruto felt the little one grow at that, while Anko took advantage of the situation. She then placed her hands on Naruto's chest and kissed him again, a battle of tongues commencing before Anko dragged both herself and Naruto onto the ground. She then disconnected herself from his mouth and looked him in the eyes, straddling his chest with her womanhood in his face. "Now then, Naru-kun, I don't think I had the opportunity to be naughty around our first time, so I think now will be as good a time as it can get. I want you to first lick my pussy until I tell you to stop," she said with Naruto smirking at that. It appeared that Anko wished to be the dominate one this time around, so he'll bite for now. He nodded his head before planting his face into her wet folds and began to lick all around the area that was wet. Anko moaned loudly as Naruto's tongue penetrated her folds and swirled around it like a whirlpool. He began to play around with her pussy, as he would lick inside the folds then come out to lick the outside. Unknown to her, a long hand traveled along her legs until he reached her backside, and more importantly, her hole. He let one finger circle it before entering her, making the woman cry out in pleasure, as Naruto began to pull it in and out of her body, while adding in another finger to stimulate the experience for his purple-haired princess. Anko cried out in pure pleasure and began to ride her womanhood into the white-haired boy's face, wondering how he got so good in setting up the mood. After a good minute went by, Anko began to slide herself away from the boy's mouth and towards his sword. Anko then slowly got up and positioned her back entrance to his throbbing member with a smirk on her face. "Now I want you to do me in the ass while playing with my breast. I need for you to get used to the feel of a woman's breast so that way you can create new moves to please a woman," Anko said with Naruto nodding before Anko turned around and soon lowered herself onto him until she was fully sheathed. Naruto took that moment and sat up while bucking his hips into her ass since this was the first time he'd done something like this. He grabbed the woman's breast and began to fondle them again, making the familiar moans emanate from her lungs again. Anko had to say that the boy was doing very well this time. In fact, he was far better than the last time they went at it, so it went to show that he could improve his technique at any amount of time. Sure, he always hit the right spots, but this time he was doing it with the skills she knew he had in him. Naruto began to bite around her ear, while his hands continued to fondle her breast in every way possible. That's when he changed it again. As he fondled her, he let one hand slip down her body again, and this time towards her wet folds. Anko's eyes widened as Naruto was doing it again, but this time he was performing a trifecta move, in which he pleasures all three of a female's main pleasure points. Naruto was driving her wild and they haven't even gotten to the main course yet. Naruto took this as a sign to continue, so he pinched her nipple while rubbing his finger along the insides of her folds. He also had his hand move in sync with his thrusts, as when he trusted his member in her, he would also stroke his hand inside her, giving her the trifecta technique that Jiraiya told him was the best way to give a woman a much greater feeling in the time of intercourse. Soon the time came when Anko screamed as the next orgasm hit and now felt it was time for the main course. As such, she pulled herself off of his member and laid back down on the grass, legs open to take him in. Naruto then climbed over her and angled himself over her womanhood perfectly, before looking at Anko, who had a questioning look on her face. "Have you been getting lessons? Your technique is showing great improvement." She complimented him on his work, with said boy smiling at her. "I've been learning on how to please a woman from a certain someone, plus practice makes perfect," he said. While she didn't know who he was talking, it was actually with Nevin that he learned and practiced with. The succubus demon said that while they cannot be more than what they were now, it couldn't stop her from showing him what he needed to know. Although the boy was sure that she just wanted to get involved with the teachings and actually show him what to do. "You damn right, master, and tonight will be another lesson, so get ready to summon me," Nevin said, looking forward to tonight's lesson. "Well, all I know is that my pussy is hungry and it's only hungry for a certain meat stick, so shove it in," Anko said with Naruto nodding before he entered her wet folds and once more enjoyed the warmth her body gave around his cock. He could very well say that that was his favorite part of the whole thing, getting that first heat upon entering. As soon as it began, Anko was already in a sexual twilight, as stars began to form in front of her eyes. Her body somehow gotten into the rhythm so well that they were connected through each of the boy's thrust. When Naruto moved up, so did Anko, and when the boy moved down, so did she. Their bodies heated up even faster at the constant connection they had with one another. Anko pulled the boy closer to her chest, and whispered words of encouragement to him, making him work harder than before. The two Junin continued to stay fused with one another before Anko's climax came. Naruto, feeling that the time to end has come, he gave one mighty thrust into her, as her walls closed around his member and was filled with his semen. Anko was already using the spermicidal ninjutsu that all kunoichi knew to stop pregnancy in case they weren't ready to get pregnant. Naruto collapsed onto the woman's chest and their faces were inches away from each other. Anko smirked at him, while enjoying his hot body on hers, with their flesh still fused together as one being. "You know, Naruto, that I expect you to be better the next time, right?" she asked with Naruto smirking before he kissed her. "I always plan to be better, baby," he said before Anko kissed him again and started another tongue battle, which Anko always won. After about a few more minutes, the two walked out of the forest with smirks on their faces. 2 weeks later, Senju Tsunade along with Sarutobi Hiruzen now sat near the window sill, looking over the village will, a wondrous eye, while the Hokage's clones did all the paperwork. On the first day of the job, she was ready to be done with it, until Naruto told her of an alternative to doing the paperwork. She was shocked beyond belief when Naruto told her that all she had to do was make a clone of herself to do the stupid stuff, while she herself read through the important documents and worked on making new laws for the village. Hiruzen was also shocked to learn this, as Naruto never once mentioned anything about an alternative use of paperwork. His blonde bastard of a father is the reason for all this. Even in the grave you taunt me, my successor. Hiruzen thought before taking another drink of sake before looking at his former student. "So tell me, Tsunade, how does it feel to be back in the village?" he asked with Tsunade smiling a little to herself. "It feels funny in a way. Every time I thought of this place only hate and disgust would arise before I would get rid of it with sake and gambling. Now I feel closer to my grandfather and making him proud to be his granddaughter," she said with a smirk coming up. "Plus it's awesome that I have my youth back. I feel like I can crush 1,000,000 stones without breaking a sweat again," she said taking another sip of sake. "Plus your experiment with Naruto-kun's blood to help restore my youth helps as well," Hiruzen said, once more being 40 and loving it. When Tsunade learned of the boy's bloodline being able to heal at an alarming rate, she took a sample of his blood and tested on it, and the results were instantaneous. She could now use a special healing ninjutsu, in which it could restore the cells of a human body, be it muscle, blood, bone, or even aging. Upon discovering this technique, she tried on Jiraiya since that man wouldn't give up the chance to get some youth back. So she used the move on him and the results were him regaining 20 years of his youth back. It could have gone down further, but Tsunade was exhausted by the time she reached the 20-year mark, thus the limit was set at 20. When Tsunade used it on the old man, the results were the same as with Jiraiya, as the old man went from an age 60 to an age 40. It was then that this technique was dubbed a SS-class Kinjutsu, and would only be passed down through Tsunade's family, which would soon join Naruto's once the marriage is down. Of Naruto, the white-haired boy now stood among the Hokages with Lee, Anko and Kurenai by his side. The boy raised an eyebrow at that but shook it off, knowing that Tsunade would explain why. "Okay then everyone, as I'm sure you're all wondering why am I here, the reason is because you all shall be going on a mission together," she said with Naruto looking slightly confused along with Lee since Tenten was missing from their group. "But Hokage-sama, where is Tenten? I thought she would be here as well?" Lee asked since they've already gone on 3 missions together, so they were used to their combination. "Tenten is currently on a separate mission with Sakura, Neji and Guy. They won't be back for a while, so I thought Kurenai would make a great substitute for your group. Besides, where you guys are going you will need all the female help you can get," she said with the boys looking confused along with the women. "What does being female have to do with this mission?" "I'm sure you guys are confused by that statement, so let me be brief with this. The reason why is because you all shall be going to Amazon country to find the 2 Jinchurikis that fled there. With the current threat of Akatsuki's killer roaming the area, I think we need to bring them here to protect them properly," she said with Naruto looking shocked by that. "Amazon country? As in we hate the stick but love the slide, Amazon country?" he asked with the blonde woman nodding before handing them the scroll for the mission. "You guys are to leave ASAP," she said with each member of the group walking out the room with a different thought on their head. "I'm going to a place that is filled with more lesbians than a softball team. Good thing I changed my clothes to be a little less revealing, or else I'm sure one of them would have ripped it off me," Anko thought as the images of women ripping of her out-netting skirt and jacket made her shudder in fear. "I wish Kin-chan could come with me. I hear that place has the most beautiful forest to get laid in," Lee thought, completely forgetting that he and Kin were taking a small break from sex to get themselves a chance to rest. And by break, he meant about a day. "I hope I get the chance to talk to Naruto. Maybe if I can get Anko to help me get some alone time with him, we can do more than just talk," Kurenai thought as a small blush came to her face. "I'm going to hell, aren't I, Kyubi?" Naruto thought as he walked towards the gate with his team. "Yes, you will. But look on the bright side, now you can take that hot red girl that Anko was always talking about, Kyuubi said with Naruto raising an eyebrow. Kurenai, you really think I have a shot with her? He asked with the fox scoffing. Kit, of course you do, as I can smell the scent of arousal come off her when she near you. All you have to do is further it to the point where she will submit to you, Kyuubi said with Naruto smirking up a wide storm before he bit his thumb and summoned his trusty dragon Raihusha back to the world of the living. The dragon greeted its master with a bow of his head, and Naruto rubbing his snout. Raihusha, would you mind taking me, my friend, and the two raging beautiful women behind me? He said, making both Anko and Kurenai blush. The dragon nodded his head before allowing the three shinobi to hop onto his back. The large dragon then flapped his wings before taking off into the sky and flying towards the direction of the place known as Amazon Country, with Sasuke. The Uchiha heir currently rested in the confines of his hospital room, knowing full well that Sakura would come by again today and he wasn't looking forward to it. He needed to get out of here soon, as this place was no longer giving him what he needed in terms of power. He had to endure all the pain and hardships of losing his clan to his bastard brother, and yet that white-haired dobe was getting what he so rightfully deserved. He needed to leave this place to gain power, true power to destroy the man he once loved as his brother. I see how your current predicament would give you that choice of judgment, Sasuke-san, said a voice that caused Sasuke to look on in alarm. He looked around the room and saw that it was getting darker and darker by the second before it was pitch black. A figure then stepped from the shadows with a large cloak on his body and a huge sword on his back. The man then looked at the Uchiha with his dark eyes glaring through the darkness of his hood. Who are you? He asked with the man chuckling. My name is Kazama Sotachi, Devil of the Hidden Mist and last remaining member of the original Seven Swordsmen, Sotachi said with Sasuke looking a little fearful of the man before him. What do you want? He asked with the man walking around the room before noticing a basket of apples on the table beside Sasuke. He walked over to them and picked one up before biting down on the red fruit. Just something about red apples that always attracts my taste buds, he said before shoving the whole fruit in his mouth and swallowing it whole. The reason for my appearance is simple, my boy. I wish to give you an invitation, he said with Sasuke looking a bit peeved. What kind of invitation? He asked with the man once more eating an apple. It's nothing major, really, but I see that you are in need of great power, which is something I can provide you with to the fullest extent of the word. I want you to join my army, for I see great potential in you, and I can see the very possibility that you would very well take over the elemental nations as its king, he said with Sasuke looking intrigued by that. And what, pray tell, will I need to do in order to get to that level? Sasuke said, as he could tell just by looking at this man that he was indeed a powerhouse waiting to be discovered. I will need your help in getting a certain someone out of my way for a moment, as I need to take the much-needed time to get ready for what I have planned, he said with Sasuke nodding. Just tell me what I have to do, and it will be done, Sasuke said with Sotachi chuckling, before he walked over to Sasuke's side and placed a hand on the Uchiha's neck that held the curse mark. All will be explained in due time. But for now, he trailed off as he transferred some of his chakra into Sasuke, causing the boy to cry out in pain before he fell over unconscious. You will need your rest. Your body will need to get used to devil chakra as soon as possible before your moment to shine comes, Sotachi said before he sunk into the shadows below his feet, and the room cleared up with light. What Sasuke didn't see was the pulsing curse mark on his neck that was glowing a dark red color. Something was certain about this. Whatever Sotachi did to him, it would soon come out. Over the outskirts of a forest lead the group to fly towards the Amazon country, which by the speed they were traveling in it, would be more than likely for them to arrive within roughly 2 hours, or possibly an hour. Naruto stood on his trusty dragon's head with Kurenai, Anko, and Lee all sitting near his large wings, holding on to the beast with their chakra. The crew knew that while on board Flight 187, you had to hold on for dear life, or else you would go from Flight 187 to Graveyard 487 in an instant. Naruto held no clue about where to find Amazon country, since he never been there one day in his life. So what Kyuubi was doing was following his senses in locating his old mate the Nibi. He long since marked the demon girl, and she did the same, thus giving them a sixth sense in finding each other. No matter where they were in the world, they would always find each other. As such, the demon lord was using this to his advantage in helping Naruto in locating the place and the boy transferring the knowledge onto his dragon. Okay, Kit, tell the dragon to make a left turn coming up, he said with the boy nodding before telling Raihusha, and complied with the order. You seem a bit anxious to see the Nibi again, Kyuubi. Any reason why? Naruto asked with the fox demon growling. Because I just want to be near her again. I haven't had any form of contact with a female in 2,000 years. So I got all this sexual tension that needs to be satisfied. Straight ahead. Kyuubi said, with Naruto, sending the message to Raihusha, but didn't stop the conversation. But I allowed you to have the ability to feel through my senses, including touch, so how can you not be satisfied? Because those are your girls. While yes, it's good to feel a female body, but nothing can take the place of a demonic female. I just want my Nibi-chan again. Kyuubi said, with Naruto nodding before he continued to use the message relayed to him by the fox. About 2 hours went by before the group saw the land vanish and were now flying over the ocean nearing the outskirts of the elemental countries. Naruto was confused by this, but Kyuubi continued to instruct him to keep flying where he told him. The three passengers watched with amazement, as they saw many things swim under the water, such as whales, sharks, and dolphins. They also saw some of the amphibians trying to keep up with them but could only trail behind them. Then before the group could fathom what was going on, they failed to notice the shadow heading towards them under the water. Naruto, however, saw it, and commanded Raihusha to rise from the water surface. The dragon followed the command instantly, and barely a second later did the group learn why. A huge jaw came out of the water and snapped in the area that the group once flew over before the jaw was followed by a body that was large. The body was about 20 meters wide, but the length was immeasurable, as it kept coming out of the water. Naruto gasped at the sight before him, as the beast was huge. Its body resembled a serpent, as its hide being a dark navy blue, almost black color. Its head resembled a dragon's, as had a long snout, a pair of fan-like appendages, which were flattened at the particular moment, surrounding its ear area, and bright green eyes with slits for pupils that told the boy it held murderous intent. A long golden frill surrounded its head with 3 long ribbon-like braids that looked like tails, fluttering through the air without a breeze. A long trail of spikes went down its body, and a ring of large spikes surrounded its spear-like tail. Its long neck was wreathed by 2. It growled slightly, bearing huge fangs, and a small amount of smoke escaped its jaws, before letting loose a huge roar that echoed around the ocean, causing all the fish to swim away from fear. The water serpent then brought its head back before sending it to chomp on the group of shinobi. But Naruto commanded the dragon to take flight to the skies, so the serpent's head crashed on the water surface, but the boy followed its head, which was coming back up for another attack. Naruto then commanded his dragon to fly away from serpent while he came up with something to take this thing out. "Shit, Kit, make sure that whatever you do, don't let your guard up around her or else you'll be fish food," Kyuubi said as he recognized the serpent before him. This serpent was a former member of the Kyu no Biju, the 3-tailed sea serpent, and if there was one thing she hated more in the world, it would be men. The demon was always a ruthless fighter but would only fight and kill the likes of men and boys alike, but she would never put up a fight with females. It was also the reason why she was nicknamed the Ultimate Amazon, as she hated males with a passion and vowed to one day rid the world of all men, so that way women may properly rule as they saw fit, with her being the symbol of the world. However, she held one problem: she was around one of the weakest members of the 9, as she could easily be killed by the Gobi, and wouldn't even be much of a fight to the Rokubi. Hell, she can even fight a fellow Sanbi and lose, plus the fact that there were 3 more that were stronger than her, with one that could kill her with just one hit. The last he heard of her was that she currently resided in the waters of some island to protect the villagers, but he had a sneaky suspicion that those villagers were the Amazons. "What the fuck do you think I'm doing?" Naruto yelled in his head as he commanded Raihusha to dodge another bite attempt by the serpent. The beast didn't stop there, as it sent a blast of water at the group, with Naruto calling out serenity, and caused the blast to cease, and the water particles to fly over Raihusha, and spray the people on the giant dragon. "Naruto, what the hell is that thing?" Kurenai asked, as she saw the beast coming for them again, but the dragon was able to evade it again. Naruto then scowled as he brought his hand up and summoned Naven to his hand and called on Arios as well. Naruto felt the power of lightning and wind come to him, as devil essence worked with the 2 devil arms. "I don't know, but I'm killing it," he said before he hopped off Raihusha's head, causing the others to call his name in surprise and fear. The white-haired boy then made some quick seals, before calling out summoning jutsu, and brought forth his old friend Seiyun. Before the Stardust Dragon could greet his master, he was forced to dodge the chomping jaws of the serpent, which kept its head in the air this time, and looked at the newest being to enter his domain. "Naruto-sama, what did you do to piss her off?" the Stardust Dragon said, before dodging the serpent's chomp again, before he ascended into air. The serpent then roared at the dragon and sent a blast of water at Seiyan, who opened his mouth and focused energy into his mouth. "Stardust Cannon," he called out, sending the cosmic-infused wind at the blast of water, which resulted in both attacks to cancel each other out. "I don't know, all I was doing was flying to my destination, and this Mutha-fucka attacks me and Raihusha," he said with Seiyan looking towards his fellow Dragon Clan member, who nodded towards him. You should have known better than to fly over the water, Naruto-sama, as this is the pet of the Amazons, their only form of security. It's through this that they never had to fight an invasion with enemies, as the ships would be taken out before they even knew what hit them. This is why the Amazons adopted her as their pet, I guess," he said before flying to side, as the serpent came up strong on her next attack, and went past the group like a speeding train. Naruto then saw the entire beast leave the water, and marveled at the size of the creature, as it could very well destroy Konoha if it could live outside of water. That was another weakness the creature had, as it had to be in the water at a constant amount of time, and could only leave for a full 6 seconds before it needed to get back in the ocean. This didn't mean that it couldn't have its head outside of the ocean, as it could have a vast majority of its body leave the ocean and float over the surface and attack. However, that tactic wouldn't last long, as it would soon need to have his head under the water and remain under the surface for an untold amount of time before it could fight again. Naruto watched in astonishment as the serpent sunk its head into the water and saw its body follow before it took its head back out of the ocean and speed towards Naruto and Seiyun. Naruto then grasped Nevin before sending a strong stroke on the cords, thus causing massive feedback from the weapon that sent waves of electricity at the sea serpent. When the attack hit its mouth, the beast screamed in pain before it slammed back into the water, causing a huge wave of water to launch into the air before falling back into the water below. The boy saw a massive wave being sent towards an island behind him and crashed onto the beach area and towards the surrounding forest area. The white-haired boy looked at it in confusion before he looked back at the water surface that the serpent fell in. "Did I get it?" he asked before he saw the sea serpent leave the water again and was now floating along the water's surface, but it didn't attack. Naruto then saw someone jump onto the head of the beast and saw that it was a girl. The girl then pointed towards Naruto, which the serpent responded by swimming over to the white-haired boy and allowed Naruto to get a closer look at the girl who stood on the serpent's head. He saw that she had long, vibrant orange hair tied in a ponytail with a pair of beautiful, dark amethyst eyes, while dressed in Amazonian battle armor with a blade staff strapped to her back. "What are you doing here, male? Don't you know that your kind are forbidden from this sacred land?" she asked with Naruto scoffing before he smirked at the girl. "I'm here because of a mission, although I don't know how you are able to control your demon like that," he said with the girl snarling at him. "She's not a demon, she's my friend and I won't let you disrespect her," she said with Naruto rolling his eyes. "Whatever, can I please go by so I can complete my mission? The faster I get it done, the faster I can leave this hellhole," he said with the girl snarling again as she drew her bladed staff and aimed it to stab Naruto in the neck, only for the boy to bring up his arm and block the blade. The girl then placed her weapon back on her back before she snarled at him. "Don't call this place a hellhole again, male, or else you'll beg Lady Tsunami to protect you," she said before telling the serpent to take her back to the island. Naruto then saw Raihusha travel towards him, with his teammates looking at him with worried expressions on their faces. "Naruto, are you all right?" Anko asked with Naruto looked towards the island for a moment before he answered. "Yeah, although I got the feeling that won't be all the shit we go through on this mission," he said before he told Seion to travel towards the island, along with Raihusha following suit. 2 minutes later, the group was currently walking towards the gates of the village after flying through a sea of trees and flying over a mountain to find the Amazonian village on the very top. The village was quite the sight to them, as it was a large city with massive stone walls, and seemed to spiral upward as if it was trying to reach up to the heavens. Around the village, all stood statues of Amazonian warriors, holding their weapons in an honor pose. Naruto wondered how long it must have took for them to build those stone statues, but had to force that thought out, as the gates opened up with Amazons all running out of the gates with weapons in hand. Naruto then saw the same girl from before walk out of the crowd with another woman coming out with long purple hair that reached her back and blue eyes. The woman wore the same Amazonian armor as all the others except hers had a cape with shoulder pads. And okay, I'm not sure on this, so if someone that knows the facts on Amazonian warriors is reading this, tell me in a PM, not a review. The woman had a large claymore blade on her back, and a look that would promise pain to anyone that tried her. "Halt! State your business for being in front of Shiroishi White City," the woman said with Naruto stepping forward. "My name is Namikaze Naruto from Konohagakure, along with my teammates Kazama Lee, Mitarashi Anko, and Yuhi Kurenai. We were sent here for a mission by our Hokage to retrieve the 2 Jinchurikis you hold," Naruto said with the guards all gasping at that. "How do you know that? No one outside of this city knows who they are, and we won't be so willing to give them up," she said placing her hand on her sword, preparing to draw it. It was then that Naruto was starting to get pissed. Of all the places for Naruto to be sent to for a mission, it had to be carpet-licking Amazon country. Naruto then held out his right hand and summoned rebellion to his hand with his eyes turning into a red glow before the celestial form of Kyuubi appeared. The Amazons were all shocked by this as they never saw something like that, and then saw Lee summon Kokushibu to his hand and took off his glasses to reveal his Mashingan. "If you so much as take one slash at my cousin, then you'll all feel the wrath of Kokushibu," he said with the woman before them scowling before she took out her claymore and let her power be felt amongst the two teenage Junins. "Insolent, disgusting males, you shall pay for your disrespect towards our goddess. Prepare to face execution," she said before charging at the two half-devils, but the sound of clapping hands caused her to stop her momentum. The woman stopped to her forward momentum and turned to find another woman that was by far the most beautiful among the other entire Amazons before them. She had long, messy black hair and bright purple eyes. Her attire was the same as the woman that tried to attack them, except she had a long coat over it, with a large weapon on her back, and by the looks of it, resembled a huge claymore blade. "Lady Shizukesa," she said before bowing to the Amazonian woman along with the other guards. It appeared that this woman was also the leader among the other warriors, as they all bowed their heads with respect to her presence. "Stand down, Tensuke, there is no need for violence before our guest in this sacred land," she said in an angelic voice before stepping before the Konoha shinobi. "I take it that you're the group Tsunade-sama has sent our way?" she said with the others gasping slightly but kept their heads down. "Yes, she has. Do you know her?" Naruto asked with the woman giggling slightly. "Of course I know her. I was her apprentice at one time," she said with everyone else gasping at that before Naruto got a little worried. He wondered what the world would be like with two Tsunes roaming it. "Now then, please follow me so that we may brief on your presence here before you can do anything officially here. My guards and I shall escort you," she said with the other women looking shocked. "My lady, surely you don't intend to let those disgusting men into our temple? It will contaminate our beautiful home." Tensuke said only for Shizukesa to look in her direction. "I'm afraid that given the circumstances at hand, we must allow them to take hold of the Jinchuriki we rescued," she said before seeing the women scowl at that but had to keep it down. Naruto felt some jealousy well up within him, as the women looked as if they would fight for their Jinchurikis until their final breath. Naruto never thought that one of his own would be loved so much by strangers to the point where they would fight for them. Maybe it's because they're female. Who knows? Naruto thought before following after the Empress of the city along with Lee, Kurenai and Anko following suit. As Naruto walked along the road following the Empress, he couldn't help but see the glares sent towards him and Lee, while the others licked their lips at the sight of Kurenai and Anko. The two female members of the team felt a little disgusted at how these women acted like men when it came to sex, but seeing as how the only thing they had around here was females, they could understand why. Naruto simply sighed at the glares before a laugh left his throat, causing the others to look his way. "Different village, same bullshit I suppose," he said, since his village hated him for being a Jinchuriki, and this one hated him for being a male. Therefore both places had something in common, they hated him. Lee then placed a hand on Naruto's shoulders, causing the boy to face his smirking cousin. "It's all right, man, just dust it off your shoulders like you do with the villagers," he said with Naruto nodding, before they continued walking towards the castle. 2 hours later. "Okay, now then, would you all have a seat? I would like to get this started," Shizukesa said as she sat in her chair with her two guards, Tensuke on her right, and another one that looked to be 5 months pregnant on her left. "Wait, pregnant? Excuse me, but how is it that she is pregnant?" Naruto said, pointing towards the guard on Shizukesa's left. Said woman growled at the white-haired boy, but Shizukesa raised her hand to silence the woman. We explain. Since we lack males in the city, we cannot reproduce any new warriors among our ranks. As such, we use a special medical technique to give male-like traits to a newborn baby, so that way when they mate with another, they may pass on the male traits to the one they chose, thus allowing her to become pregnant. We call those with the male trait the Fama and the mother an Oma, with my two guards being the prime example since they are about to have their third child together," she said with both women looking down to the ground blushing brightly. "So that's how they do it. Funny, I always thought when two women rub their bodies together all you'll get is fire," Kyuubi said with Naruto struggling to keep his composure together. That was too funny. "Anyway, I'm afraid that before Yugito-chan and Fu-chan are summoned here to be informed, I must ask that you stay the night," she asked with everyone giving a different expression. Anko felt uncomfortable, because she had to be near so many carpet lickers at one time. Sure, some of them were very hot, and she wouldn't mind getting with one of them since Amazon women were rumored to give the best sexual experience known around the world, seeing as how all they knew sexually was the female body. At that thought, she went from being uncomfortable around so many women, to wanting to leave and get laid with another woman, and execute blood flow and awakening for certain perverts reading this. Kurenai felt relieved, because she planned to talk to the white-haired boy a little later, and without the distractions of the leaf to bother her, she could get her shot a lot easier. Plus she was hoping that it would lead to something long, tiring, and passionate a little later. Lee felt sadness, as now he had to wait another day before he got back to his Kin-chan. He then had to reassure himself that Kin was probably feeling the same thing right now, so this would become more of a test to their relationship, with a little separation being good for them. They can be separated for a day. Naruto felt fear, not because of the Amazons around him, as no matter what kind of fear tactics they tried to dish out, he could still dish out far worse. What he was fearful of was the fact that his control over his pheromones was becoming sloppy at the moment. He knew that if he were to lose just enough control, then his nightmares of waking up in a sea of female bodies trying to ravish every part of him would come true. Except this time, it would be 20 times worse, as Amazons were known for their high strength, so they would take him to brink of death and physical exhaustion. After that was over, the group was escorted to their rooms with the Amazon guards standing beside the group. "You should feel lucky, males. You get the opportunity to stay within the Empress's castle for the night," the captain said, with Naruto shrugging his shoulders. The group of 4 continued until it was Anko and Kurenai sharing a room with Naruto and Lee sharing a room next door. They would have sent the boys down further in the castle to the back room, but they were reminded by the Empress that they were of a different land, so they had to respect that somewhat. The white-haired boy sighed as he relaxed in the bedroom. He walked over to the balcony area and looked at the outskirts of the city, marveling at the size of the place and the beauty they took to creating. Soon nighttime came by, and they were still stuck in the room, as Lee was currently taking a nap and he himself was relaxing by the open balcony. Feeling the need to get out of the room, he hopped out of the balcony and placed his feet on the walls. When he felt the familiar feeling on the concrete wall, he began to walk up to the ceiling to get an incredible view of the city. He sat on top of the ceiling and enjoyed the fresh air before he summoned Kyuubi and blocked the sword aimed for his head. The white-haired boy smirked as he held his ground against the girl, who cursed at not being able to finish the job. "I take it you're still pissed from earlier, huh?" Naruto said before whispering "blood wave," and sent the girl flying backwards by his chakra. The girl landed on the ground with a cowl on her face while 2 other girls appeared by her side. Naruto turned his head to them and saw the other 2 girls that were with the one that attacked him earlier with that serpent. "How dare you come to this sacred land, male? We will not allow you to poison this place any further by your presence," the girl said, drawing her bladed staff, and the green-haired girl taking hold of her sword while the blonde took hold of her bow and arrow. Naruto cursed loudly before backflipping off the ceiling and began to free-fall to the ground, the girls following him. The blonde girl let the arrow fly at Naruto, who twisted his body and sliced the flying projectile in half before he rolled his body backwards and bounced off the wall towards the building before the castle. He ran down the ceiling before skidding along the ground, seeing that he was on the edge of the building. Naruto turned to find the 3 girls all standing before him with scowls on their faces. "You men are not welcome here, and you will pay for attacking Sakura-chan," the girl with orange hair said, with the girl with blonde hair letting loose another arrow at Naruto, who blocked with Kyuubi before placing the sword on his shoulder. "Well, I guess that's what I get for enjoying a good fight, although you should tell that serpent of yours that she was lucky that I wasn't serious, or else your friend would have been on the menu tonight," he said, with the girl scowling before charging at him with her sword in hand. She jumped into the air and sent a downward slash that was parried but served to hold him still while the other girls got near him. Naruto quickly jumped into the air and pushed the orange-haired girl away. When the boy landed on his feet, he blocked another attack by his green-haired opponent and pushed her away with his foot. Naruto then bent backwards, as another arrow came for his head. Naruto cursed loudly before placing his hands on the ground and flipped himself away from the 2 girls as they slammed their blades on the ground. Naruto smirked at all 3 of them, which made their scowls grow in size. "I have to say, the 3 of you are doing a good job on keeping me in defense, however I'm afraid that I got someplace that I need to be, Toddles," he said before he vanished from the area. The orange-haired girl cursed as she sheathed her sword on her back. "Damn it, I swear that I will get him for this," the girl said with the others, placing their hands on her shoulders. "Don't worry, Sasame, he will get what's his. After all, we Jinchuriki have to stick together," the other girl said, with the orange-haired girl, now called Sasame, nodding. "I guess, let's get out of here, Yugito Fu," she said, with all 3 girls leaving the area. 2 hours later. Naruto sat near the balcony, his eyes widened by the sight he just took in. While he was a man that hardly feared anything since he didn't give a shit about many things, there were still the things that freaked him out. As he ran up the wall to his room, his eye caught a rare sight, which was the sight of 2 women going at it hardcore. Sure, he knew that Haku and Hinata had been doing it together for a while, as they even had a few 3-ways together with the girls going through the girl-on-girl sections like pros. However, these 2 were going at it as if they were created the sex game between 2 females, as they did things that would make even the strongest stomach queasy. Who knew a person could bend that way or use their tongue like that? He got the image out of his head when he heard the door to his room being knocked on, and said that it was open. To his surprise, the door opened to reveal one Yuhi Kurenai walking into the room with a small smile on her face. "I take it you're holding up pretty well?" she asked with Naruto nodding. "I can't say that I feel welcome here, but it's only for a night, so I'm cool," he said with the red-eyed woman nodding before she felt her next question come up. "So do you mind if stay for a bit? I wanted to talk to you," she said with Naruto nodding before the woman sat down on the bed before him. After all, what could a harmless conversation lead towards? 2 minutes later, Kurenai moaned loudly as Naruto's tongue battled against her own, while his hand was over her breast, his finger pinching exposed hard nipple, thus causing her to get into the mood more and unleashing more moans. Kurenai wasn't sure of how it led to this moment, as all she knew was that they were having a good conversation about each other's lives and learning more about the other, until the subject went to his relationship with Anko. After that, the next thing she knew was that she lost all forms of self-control she had, and found her lips latched on his, her tongue swirling around his. The woman known as the Ice Queen, a woman that could insult you in ways that it would make you question your own sexuality, was making out with someone that should never even cross her mind. But as for Naruto, he did know what happened, as it was his pheromones going out of control at that particular time. However, this was the particular amount that would turn a room filled with women carrying strong amounts of resistance to turn into a room of dominate ladies just waiting for his slab of meat to be put onto the grill. Therefore, Kurenai was but a mere victim to his lack of controlling his pheromones. But that didn't mean that he couldn't enjoy it. He wanted to get with Kurenai the very first time he saw her, but backed off after hearing her reputation. In all truth, he had a huge crush on Kurenai, as he saw things about her that screamed power, and that was all he wanted from a woman. Fuck that personality shit, just give him power and he'll allow her to wear the pants. Naruto detached himself from Kurenai's lips and moved down to her breast and began to suck on them, causing the black-haired woman to cry out in pleasure. Kurenai began to grind her body along his crouch line as his tongue was working wonders on her body and giving her pleasure that not even a Suma could do, until they went all out. Naruto took this time to place his hand on her leg, and began to work it up the slender ligament before his hand reached her butt and began to massage it in his hand. Kurenai moaned loudly before she removed his mouth from her breast and slammed her mouth onto his for a brief moment. She then reached down to his waist before taking hold of his shit and pull it over the boy's head, showing her his tattooed arm. "Wow, I can see why Anko spoke so highly of you," Kurenai said while trailing her fingers over his body and marveled at the feel of his tough skin. "It's all thanks to vigorous training, Kurenai-chan," he said with the woman laughing a little before she kissed him again. Their tongues battled on the inside, while their hands traveled along the other's body, getting a feel of what to expect later on. She soon detached herself from Naruto's mouth, with a loud popping noise going around the room. The boy just sat there and stared at her while she took off her dress to show the boy her topless form with her white thong set, something that made Naruto marvel at for a moment. Kurenai then walked towards Naruto and placed her hands on his chest, and gently pushed him back on the bed, her lips meeting his again with her tongue battling his, before she began to trail the wet organ down his chest, and over his small six-pack abs. Naruto watched her as her eyes remained on his, her hands removing his pants and boxers in one fell motion, thus freeing the beast from his cage. She then continued down, until her tongue reached his crouch line, and instead of pleasing Naruto's desire to have himself within her mouth, she turned to the left and continued her tongue trail around his legs before licking his balls. Naruto shuddered in pleasure, as Kurenai just became the first person to do that to him sexually. Kurenai then continued around his lower region before returning to her previous spot before she began to track down, and her chin met with his first mate. "I heard Anko-chan mention how big you are," she said as she sat up slightly with her hands placed around his member. "Let's see if she was telling the truth," Kurenai said before she lowered her head around the head and took him in. Naruto began to moan loudly, as Kurenai trailed her tongue along the outer length before letting her tongue swirl around his head before taking him in again, but moved very slow on her descent down. Naruto shuddered in pleasure, as Kurenai began to ascend and descend her head down his cock, from the very top of the head to the very bottom of the shaft. She continued this process for a few more moments before releasing the boy with a loud popping noise, while he let out a loud moan since he was ready to blow. However, that was no longer the case, as Kurenai was now ready to go through the full procedure. She placed her hands around the G-string and prepared to lower it, but Naruto instead surprised her when he sat up and stopped her hands. "No, allow me," Naruto said as she lowered her hands and allowed Naruto to have the honor of removing her thong. Naruto gently placed his hand on her thong line and lowered the bottom article of clothing until all that was visible was her wet folds. Already knowing what to do, the boy placed his face in the woman's crouch and started to lap up the juices currently flowing from her valley. Kurenai moaned loudly as Naruto's tongue went inside her folds and licked around the inner area, enjoying the hot sensation his tongue received from the brunette. "Oh, yes, that's good, right there," Kurenai murmured as he kept licking her up. Feeling like it was time for payback, the boy withdrew from her, causing her to moan and place her hand around the back of Naruto's head, asking him to return to her folds. Naruto, on the other hand, had something else in mind, as he stood up from his position and kissed the woman again before releasing her lips. "Isn't time for the main event?" Naruto asked with Kurenai smirking at him before she kissed him again and started another tongue fight before shoving him towards the bed, his member ready to greet her folds. Kurenai then climbed over his body again and took hold of his length in her hand while aligning it with her folds. She closed her eyes for a moment, as once he entered her then there was no turning back from the future that they would have together. She then let out a deep sigh before she lowered herself onto him before feeling him go all the way into her. She then placed her hands around his neck and just looked into his eyes while they got used to the feeling of unity they held at the moment. Naruto then began to move his hips into her, causing her to start lifting a lower herself onto him, until they started to get a rhythm going. Naruto began to hit her faster as Kurenai began to do the same. All that could be heard was their low moans and sounds of wet flesh smacking together. Kurenai felt the sexual bliss that Anko described to her after they had their first time, and the black-haired beauty now knew that it was fact. This boy was truly the talk of the talk when it came to his sex game, as she remembered seeing Hinata glow, as if she had a glow stick inside her. They soon felt their climax hit them before Naruto took the final approach to gaining a new mate and bit down on her neck, as they both climaxed. Naruto and Kurenai panted with exhausted breaths while their bodies remained united, and the smell of sex all throughout the room. Kurenai then lifted her head, and was now resting it onto Naruto's head. "That was amazing, Naruto. You're just as good as Anko said you would be," she said before kissing him lightly, and Naruto returning it. "It's only because I aim to please," Naruto said with Kurenai laughing inwardly, not even noticing that their bodies were still together. "Well, if you are a good boy, then we could be seeing an encore performance tomorrow," she said with a wink towards him before falling asleep in his arms. "I look forward to that," Naruto said, before he fell asleep with his member still inside Kurenai's body, although it felt too good to even want to leave. As they sleep, Kurenai's neck glowed a bit before she gained the image of a black fox, with red eyes howling at the moon. Elsewhere, Tsuchikin walked through the village with a bag full of items she would need for when Lee returned to the village. She was feeling it already, and it was beginning to get on her nerves that she had to wait on him. She wanted that big dick in her now, and she wanted to ride his ass until they needed to change the sheets on the bed again due to over-wetness and smell. As she walked down the street, she was greeted with the sight of Haruno Sakura approaching her with a sad expression on her face. "Hello, Sakura-san, why do you look so down?" she asked, being as friendly as she could with the girl, although Naruto already told her about the pink-haired girl. Over the time that she spent with the devil cousins, she grew to see Naruto as a brother figure and would be seen in the same light by the white-haired boy. As such, she was surprised to see Sakura looking at her with a gloomy expression. "How did you get him?" she asked with Kin looking confused. "What do you mean? Are you talking about Lee?" she said with Sakura shaking her head. "No, Naruto, how did you get him to like you so easily?" she asked with her voice sounding desperate. "I don't know what you're trying to ask me, but if I would have to answer, maybe it's because I'm dating his cousin," she said with Sakura shaking her head before she glared at him. "No, how did you sink your teeth in my Naruto? He was mine before all you bitches came by and stole him from me," Sakura said, finally letting her true feelings out and wasn't afraid of expressing them anymore. "You stole him, now him back, give me back my Naruto," she said with tears flowing from her eyes, but Kin wasn't buying it for a minute. "Sakura, you're not fooling anyone," she said with the pink-haired girl sniffling before she responded. What are you talking about? You have something that belongs to me," she said with Kin sighing before she answered. "No you don't, as Naruto was never yours to begin with, well, maybe until he changed. The fact is that you had your shot with him, in fact, you had the shot before he changed, and instead of answering it, you went the other way and ignored his feelings for you. Now you say that you're ready to accept his love so he should just drop all those that love him and go back to you?" she said with Sakura looking shocked. "But she was saying before Kin raised her hand. "Save it, Sakura, you know as well as I do that you don't love him. You're just making excuses for yourself, and I'm sure that you know that yourself," Kin said before walking past the pink-haired girl before stopping in her tracks. "Look, Sakura, if you want to get his forgiveness, then all you have to do is talk to him. He normally likes to hang around the park and just sit there to chill. Lee-kun would be able to help you talk to him, however," Kin said as she approached Sakura with a glare that caught the girl's full attention. If you want to get with my Lee-kun, then you have to impress me in more ways than one, she said, looking the pink-haired girl over. And I would say that the way you are now you could pass, but that's for me to decide when I do test you, Kin said before walking away from a blushing Sakura, who knew what Kin was implying. What is with the girls they hang with? It's almost as if they just get the attention from the boys. I guess I could go after Lee since he is cute, Sakura thought before walking towards the Kage's office. She needed a favor. The next morning, Naruto stood beside Lee, along with Anko and Kurenai, both who had satisfied expressions that told many tales about what they undergone in the last 24 hours. Kurenai could now see what Anko did in Naruto, as he was by far a better person as opposed to Asuma, and he was by far better in the sack than he was. Anko now felt as if her body was recreated by the very hands of God himself, as barely 4 hours ago, she just went through what was quite possibly the best sexual experience that was second only to Naruto. She found the girl that not only knew her way around a tongue, but also could do several moves with said tongue, that even made Anko shudder with delight. Who knew having another girl's tongue in your mouth could taste so good? Naruto saw Anko's facial expression, and obviously knew that the woman got laid last night, but what surprised him was that he knew it was with another woman. How? Because he was with Kurenai last night and Lee is too faithful to Kin to even bother trying to cheat on her. He felt a bit ashamed at himself for not putting that smirk on her face, and felt the determination to give her a reason to smirk like that. Okay everyone, I hope you all enjoyed your stay here, and judging by the looks I'm sure you did, she said with both women blushing at that while Naruto smirked but Lee frowned. He felt pissed that his teammates all got pussy except for him, and at his desire to get back to Kin stronger than before. Anyway, I shall call them in no, Shizukesa was saying, until Tensuki came bursting into the room with a disheveled expression on her face, almost as if she just ran 15 miles in under 3 minutes. Lady Shizukesa, there is a problem that we need your help with, she said with Shizukesa standing up from her seat. What is the problem? She asked with the woman calming down before she spoke. Those shinobi from Otogakure are back, and this time they seem to be stronger than before, almost as if they are demons possessed, she said with Shizukesa stroking her chin. This is serious. How many casualties do it have? She asked. We have 6 wounded and 2 dead. The rest are holding their own, but I don't know for long, she said with some tears running down her cheeks, as the ones that they lost were 2 friends of hers. I will be there in a moment. Just tell your squad to hold them back for as long as they can before I arrive, she said before looking towards the leaf shinobi before her. Please, I must ask of your assistance in this matter. I can understand if you choose to leave, as you are not a part of this land, but we will greatly appreciate you for it, she said before seeing the 2 boys were already out of the window. She looked towards Anko and Kurenai and saw that the 2 women had smiles on their faces. You don't have to ask Naruto-kun to fight, just tell him that he can, Anko said before she, Kurenai and Shizukesa ran out of the window and headed towards the outer area of the city. The boys were already rushing over the gates and were now heading towards the cliffs, where they saw smoke built around a center area below. I take it that's where the fight is, Naruto said, as he continued running towards the ledge. Well then it would be a shame if we miss it. Let's say we kick this into overdrive, Lee said as they ran past the group of Amazons carrying the wounded back. They were surprised at how fast the boys were, and soon the surprise turned to shock when they jumped over the cliff. Barely 2 seconds later did they reappear on the backs of 2 dragons now flying towards the battlefield. They then turned around to find their leader and the 2 female Junin from the Leaf Marvel rushing towards the edge as well. Shizukesa marveled at the beast they commanded, and almost felt tempted to ask the boy for one of her own. Is that boy always this determined in a battle? She asked as she stopped in the middle of the city's outskirt, along with Kurenai and Anko. Oh yes he is. He actually fought the Shikaku no Ichibi in our Chunin exams and defeated it on his own. It was an amazing feat that we've never witnessed anyone do since the Yondaime defeated the Kyuubi, Kurenai said with Shizukesa looking shocked at that. You mean that boy is the one who did that? We all just thought that it was just a silly rumor, she said with Anko shaking her head. Naruto-kun can do many things, Lady Shizukesa. He is actually one of the strongest people we have in our village, as well as the most noble of all. You can't trust anyone over Naruto-kun any day, Anko said with Shizukesa looking stunned for a moment, before she bit her thumb and formed some seals. Well, can't let him have all the fun now, can we? Summoning jutsu, she called out with a large falcon appearing before her. She then hopped on the creature's back along with the others, and without a moment to waste the creature took off into the air, and was following the boys. With said boys, Sasame, Yugito and Fu were currently fighting the 3 shinobi before them, that were referred to as the Sound 4, except they were without one member of their group, as she was captured by Konoha during the invasion. They currently lead an army of 100 against the Amazons of this village, as their master told them to capture the 3 Jinchurikis being guarded here. Said Jinchurikis made the job easier on them, as all 3 of them came before them with determined looks on their faces. "Look at this, they are trying to give us a challenge, how cute," the one named Kidomaru said as he took on Fu. The girl was using her weapon, which was a battle fan, and was waving it at the spider warrior with vigorous effort, but it came to no avail as the spider warrior used his special gold spiderweb to create a shell over his entire body to protect him from harm. He quickly overpowered the girl before she even had her chance to draw the sword on her waist, and was now at his mercy. "Oh yeah, what would make you guys think that you could win?" said another one named Jirubo that was very fat and currently fought against Sasame, who also fell victim to his overpowering strength and strong nature. She tried to use her Biju's chakra, but it was of no use, as the big boy was just too strong for her. "Too bad for you 3, but don't worry, we shall make sure that you 3 feel heavenly before you die." The next one, who was called Sakon, said with a dark smile on his face, as Yugito was currently held down by the boy's foot on her chest. The blonde-haired girl could not believe this. They were Amazonian warriors, yet they were easily defeated by these 3 men, who looked as if they were having a field day with them. There was nothing more embarrassing than a defeat, but a defeat at the hands of a man? That spoke volumes more than embarrassment, it spoke weakness. "Anyway, let's get you guys to your temporary new home before you will go to the bright cloud city in the sky for all eternity," Kidomaru said with the girls squirming under his feet. "Will you all shut up and get moving? We are wasting too much time as it is," said the last man named Kimimaro, who looked ready to bolt from this place and never look back. "In a minute, Kimimaro, let's say that before we bring them back to Oto we break them in," Kidomaru said with Jirubo and Sakon attracting dark smiles to their faces. The girls' eyes widened at that, and tears slowly began to leave their eye sockets. They were going to be raped, and yet they couldn't do anything to stop it. That was what they planned to do, until a kunai whizzed past the head of Kidomaru, who looked at T with confusion on his face. The others looked at it confused as well before they turned their heads to catch a face full of flying boots by Naruto and Lee. The 3 shinobi all flew backwards as Naruto and Lee landed on the ground with dark looks on their faces. "It appears that someone has a little problem with keeping their little friend in their pants. Perhaps we should fix that," Naruto said before summoning Yamato to his hand. Lee did the same with Kokushibu and took off his weights to allow his full speed to be used. The 3 boys who were about to have some fun snarled at Naruto and Lee before they got up from their down position along with Kimimaro. He looked towards the 2 half-devils with anger before he spoke. "Jirubo, Kidomaru, Sakon, take care of the one with the left. I'll deal with the one on the right," Kimimaro said, pointing towards Lee, who charged at the boy with his sword at the ready. Naruto simply smirked at them before he made 3 clones and had each one form a protection barrier around the 3 female Jinchurikis. The boy then glared at the 3 would-be rapist, as he pointed rebellion towards the 3 boys. "You guys were willing to stoop so low as to rape 3 girls. That goes beyond redemption and forgiveness, and the only solution for you 3 would be death," Naruto said before turning his right arm into the Devil Bringer. As soon as he said those words, the 3 shinobi from Sound growled at him before their powers began to increase. "Well, then it won't be us that will knock on death's door as we'll die right here right now," said the 2-headed boy named Seikon as he and his 2 teammates began to change before the boy's eyes. Black marks began to appear on each of them, but each looked different. For the fat kid known as Jirubo, his looked like tiny black arrows. For Seikon, his looked like black spots. And for Kidomaru, it looked like black vines. Naruto only stared at them with a stoic look before he charged at them head-on. Lee versus Kimimaro. Lee stepped up to Kimimaro, who stood still for a moment and didn't say a word. The white-haired boy then watched as a crack appeared on his albino opponent and saw something come out of his shoulder area. Lee watched in astonishment as Kimimaro took hold of what appeared to be his shoulder bone with a sharpness that could resemble a sword of some kind. Kimimaro then held the sword before his body before he charged at the white-haired boy. Lee raised his sword to block the bone blade before he disappeared and reappeared behind the albino boy. Kimimaro then moved the sword behind his back to block a sword strike from above, before he forward rolled onto the ground before he aimed his right hand towards Lee. The boy could see opening form out of his fingers, and once again, they resembled bones as Kimimaro called out drilling finger bullets, and launched the bones from his fingers toward Lee at impressive speed. They flew at Lee and hit him in his chest area, but he soon vanished from the hit. Lee then made some seals before he called out machine gun technique shadow release shadow laser. He said as purple chakra escaped from his eyes and headed towards Kimimaro. The boy cursed before he hopped into the air until he felt something hit him on his left shoulder. He looked towards the appendage and found Lee performing a flying kick to his arm. The albino quickly took a slash at Lee's leg, only for him to execute a forward kick with his left leg to backflip himself back to the ground. As soon as he landed, he quickly hopped back as Kimimaro sent another of his finger bullets at the boy. Lee skidded along the ground before he looked at Kimimaro with a smirk on his face before he crossed his arms, and chakra began to swirl around him. Kimimaro landed on the ground in surprise at the display of power given off by Lee, as he never seen anyone do something like this, and his power was far exceeding the level of a normal curse mark user. He then saw Lee's power output increase to the point where the chakra became visible before he yelled loudly as his chakra erupted out of his body and rocked the earth. Lee continued to scream as his eyes began to glow a bright purple with his skin turning red. Before Kimimaro could even speak, Lee vanished from his side of the field and reappeared before him in barely 0.2 of a second. The albino then felt the force of a strong punch that somehow ripped chunks of the earth out of the ground and flew alongside the bone user. Lee continued to raise his power before he jumped into the air with a huge dust cloud following him. Kimimaro placed his arms in front of his body to block the shot, only to be shocked when it came from behind his back. He started to fly forward, but Lee reappeared before him with another strike. Lee continued to attack Kimimaro, relying on the usefulness of the surrounding rocks before all were gone except him and Kimimaro. He then sent one more fist towards the albino's back and sent him towards the ground, but was unknowingly held by the boy's bandage wrapped around his waist. Lee then pulled Kimimaro back as he brought his right arm back, before slamming it into Kimimaro's stomach, and sent him flying towards the ground and crashing on the hard rock. A huge explosion rocked the area as a plume of dust built up around the area Kimimaro landed in. Lee landed on the ground and walked towards the crater that held a disheveled Kimimaro, who looked towards Lee and looked as if he would soon die. "Your name?" he said, as if his life wouldn't end until he knew the name of his killer. "My name is Kazama Lee. It was an honor to fight you," he said with Kimimaro smiling weakly before his body gave out on him and felt the life leave his body. Lee was about to leave the area until a bright silver light encased Kimimaro's body, and it turned into a silver orb that flew towards Lee's right arm before he was encased in light again. When it cleared, he saw that he was now holding a new weapon, which consisted of his arm encased within a sleeve made of bone and metal, with a demon's upper skull on his shoulder, with a small blue flame leaving its eyes. He saw that his hand was also encased with what appeared to be an eye on the back of his hand, and the same type of demonic-like skull around his wrist. He looked at this weapon in confusion before he looked towards a slab of rock that somehow survived the onslaught. Lee held up his right arm before charging at the rock slab and slashed towards it with his sharp claws. He then looked in surprise as the rock separated into 3 discs that fell over and hit the ground. Lee then hopped into the air and yelled as he slammed his fist onto one of the discs, and watched as his arm went right through the disc and cut it in half. He then pulled his arm out of the ground, and couldn't help but smirk at his new weapon. "Honsupia Bone Spear, welcome to the family," he said before he walked away from the area and head back towards Naruto. Naruto versus the Sound 4. Naruto dodged another strike towards him by the spider-like warrior and hopped back from a punch by Jirubo. The white-haired teen could only give a bored look towards the 3 males before him, as each one currently had a damaging wound to them that would make fighting harder than the way it was before. Jirubo lost an arm when he underestimated Naruto's sword. Kidomaru lost his left eye when he got too close and felt the blade enter his eye with quick precision. Sakon was currently resting up with his brother Yukon taking care of the fight, as Naruto gave him a slash across his stomach. "Are you guys going to actually fight me, or do I have to kill you now?" he said with Jirubo growling before he charged forward with his only arm cocked back and ready to strike at a moment's notice. "Shut up, you bastard, I will kill you right here," he said before sending his right arm forward, only to gasp when Naruto blocked it with his sheathed sword. "Foolishness," he said before he vanished in flash of light before reappearing above Jirubo with Yamato extended outward before he landed on the ground with his arm held in the air, before he rose up with arm lowering to his side. Jirubo then felt his arm fall off his shoulder area, causing his blood to explode out of the wound with his screams echoing around the forest, before Naruto stabbed Yamato through the back of his skull. "Foolish whelp," Naruto said before sheathing the sword. When he did, Jirubo's body fell apart into bits and pieces of flesh. His blood leaked out of the remaining pieces of what once was his body. "Jirubo!" Kidomaru and Ukon yelled as they saw their teammate fall at the hands of this boy. Said boy then returned Yamato before he held out his right arm and transformed it into that of the Devilbringer, his stoic look making the boys feel terrified at the appearance. "Who's next?" Naruto asked with both boys looking at each other before they began to let their power rise and activated their curse seals. They ascended straight to their 2nd level, and the result was them making similar appearance to demons in ways. Kidomaru's new look was that his skin was now pure blood red with horns growing from his wrist. His hair became dark white and now looked like a beehive. His eyes were now pure black. His headband then fell off his head, showing off his now exposed third eye that was also black. His face now looked like that of a demon's face. Sakon Ukon's new look was that they each looked like a red devil, with their hair now covering their left eye. Their skin was also blood red with huge horns sticking from their forehead. His eyes were also pure black. The two brothers now had each other's head looking forward, which made them each look like a two-headed monster. Naruto responded by summoning Kyuubi in his celestial form while the sword came to his devil-bringer arm. He then ran forward with Kidomaru, bringing forth 6 blades made out of a golden material that looked to have the density and strength of metal. Sakon and Ukon each separated themselves from each other, and their arms and legs that were missing turned into black demonic-style armor. Naruto, however, wasn't fazed by this, as he met Kidomaru first, and slashed forward with the demonic sword, only for the spider-like man blocked with 2 of his arms, and tried to stab Naruto with the other 4. The white-haired boy quickly stepped on Kidomaru, and vaulted over him to attack Sakon, who was slightly caught off guard, and paid for it by getting slashed on his left shoulder. Ukon became enraged at what the boy did to his brother, so he ran at Naruto, unsure of what skills Naruto held. Naruto saw him coming, so he switched hands with his sword, and sent his devil-bringer arm towards Ukon's face, who was sent backwards by the force of the punch. Kidomaru took advantage of the fox vessel's slightly lowered guard, and threw one of his blades at Naruto like a spear. He quickly found himself grabbing his arm, as the one he thought he was hitting exploded, and the results were one of his arms being cut off. He turned around and lost another arm, and another, until basically he was now pretty much normal, with just 2 arms. He then tried to attack Naruto, only to find that the boy was in front of him performing some seals, until he called out demonic fire release, black dragon jutsu. He then sent his plume of black flames at the spider-like warrior, who was hit dead on by the black fire and screamed at the heat grazing his body. The boy smirked at his enemy's dismay but failed to notice the twins aiming their armored fist towards the back of Naruto's head, intending to drill his head into the ground and kill him on the spot. However, they now knew that they should have thought about that first, as Naruto vanished from the moment their fist would have connected to the boy's skull. When they landed on the ground, they turned around to look for their enemy, only to find him in front of them with Angel and Reaper in hand, the guns all charged up with the boy's wind chakra. "Funny you two should try a sneak attack, however I am far more cunning than you," he said before he pulled the trigger and sent the bullets towards the center of the twins' skulls. Normally this would have knocked them unconscious, but due to them being reinforced with wind chakra, then they were as good as dead. The bullets entered the center of their heads and came out the other end, as the blood escaped the hole behind their skulls. As they fell to the ground, Naruto walked towards Kidomaru, who survived the flames by summoning his gold material to protect his body from the intense heat. The spider-like man panted before looking up to find Naruto standing before him with his sword in hand. The spider-like man snarled at him before he sent a right fist to Naruto's gut, only for it to fall off along with his last remaining arm. The spider-like man screamed in pain before being picked up by Naruto's left hand and was now looking towards the spinning gold orb in the boy's demonic arm. He could feel the blood leave his body and drip along his sides, but knew that he needed to ask the one question that would mark his last. "What are you?" he asked, with Naruto staring at him with a blank stare. "You know what? Even I truly don't know the answer to that anymore," the half-devil stated before slamming his technique into Kidomaru's gut, calling out, "Solar Flare Rasengan," obliterating Kidomaru to ashes. Naruto panted before dismissing the Devil-Bringer, and stood before the 3 girls, who could only look at him in shock. "Who are you?" Yugito asked as she got up from the ground along with Fu and Sasame. "My name is Namikaze Naruto, and I am the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko," he said with the girls going wide-eyed. "Naruto, how did your fight go?" Lee asked as he appeared before the group of 4 with his new weapon, leaving him before he arrived. He wanted to keep that a secret for now. "It was all right. How did yours go?" he asked, with Lee shrugging his shoulders. "The same," Lee said before bringing up his fist, which Naruto bumped with his own. "I'm afraid that I must disagree on that," said a new voice to the field, as everyone looked up to find Shizukesa and her falcon floating in the air along with Kurenai and Anko. The forces that Oto brought along were already slaughtered, except the females, of course, as they would be needed for interrogation and future slavery purposes. The leader of White City could only look in astonishment, as the 2 boys fought and defended not only her home but 3 of her warriors. This told her one thing: they were indeed trustworthy and honorable men. Later on, "Well, I must say that you 2 truly are worthy of being allies to this city, as I've never seen someone fight with as much passion and determination to protect someone like you 2 did," Shizukesa said with Naruto and Lee smirking, along with Yugito, Fu and Sasame blushing slightly, since that was the bravest thing that they have ever seen anyone do, and maybe, just maybe, men weren't so bad after all. Or, at least when these men are concerned. We all aim to please Lady Shizukesa, although I'm in hope that we may do more work together in the future, Naruto said, though inwardly he was hoping that God would kill him the moment something came up for this place. I hope so too, however I must ask that you please take care of those 3 girls as if your life depends on it. I also want you 3 to know that at any moment in time that you wish to return, this place shall always remain their home, Shizukesa said with a smile on her face, as the 3 girls nodded their heads. Naruto then summoned both Raihusha and Saiyan to take them all home, and fast as this place was beginning to creep Naruto out the longer he stayed. Meanwhile, that damn boy killed Kabuto along with the rest of the Sound 4 and Kimimaro. Well, I'll make sure that he suffers for all eternity for what I have planned for him, Orochimaru said with a dark smile on his face, as he prepared to use his soul exchange ninjutsu on his new vessel, Genyumaru. He would have waited a little longer, but his wounds weren't healing, and without Kabuto here, it now meant that he needed to use the technique immediately. He then released his soul from his body and turned into his snake form, which was a mass of snakes all coiling around his body. He was just about to take the boy over until he was surprised by the sword going through the boy's chest and slicing him in half. He was even further shocked by the hand holding the sword as he recognized the man. It was the very same man that gave him the secret to the immortality jutsu. You, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be dead, the snake form of Orochimaru said, with the man smirking at him with his Mashigan spinning madly in front of him. Funny you should mention death. It holds many ways to enter it, but the question always remains the same. When will it be my time? He said, before taking of the force edge from his back, and pointed the blade towards the snake man. What do you mean that it's my time? I still need to live to answer the great question, Orochimaru said with Sotachi only smiling a dark smile. Well then, I guess that it will forever remain unanswered, he said before hearing Orochimaru hiss at him. Yes it will, because I will answer it with your body as my guild, Orochimaru said before he charged at Sotachi with his mouth wide open. The demonic warrior didn't even bother moving as he was devoured by the snake form of Orochimaru, who smirked at this moment and began to feel his power coursing through his veins. I told you, I will never die and you will be the guild for me to answer the great quest, he was saying before he felt something erupt in his stomach. I told you that the question shall forever remain unanswered as your time of death is now, he said before he began to pump his chakra through the snake's body, who was starting to feel the power erupt through him, and it was beginning to become painful. No, stop, you can't kill me! I am Orochimaru of the Sannin, I am an immortal amongst all the gods, he said, before his body exploded in a bloody gory fashion. Sotachi remained on the floor in a kneed position before he stood up and placed the force edge on his back. Gods do not exist, they are only a fictional idea created by man to make excuses towards. The fact is, you're just a corrupt human, he said before he walked out of the room, not noticing the gold eyes glow before they disintegrated into ashy particles that broke apart in the air. Elsewhere, Sasuke continued to turn within bed of his hospital room with a bead of sweat coming off of his forehead and causing him constantly turn in the bed. He wasn't having a dream, as it was an intense nightmare, a nightmare he never wanted to see for the rest of his days. He was reliving it again, the day that his clan was killed by Itachi and he watched the man kill his father and mother right before his eyes. He remained the stare of his brother Sharingan, the blood-like tear that streaked from his eye that night, and the day he told him the one weapon that he would need to gain the strength to not only kill him, but the strength to become a powerful shinobi. Hate. He would need that hate to fuel his power, the hate to fuel his drive, the hate to further his strength. He continued to turn as something appeared before. It was a small white snake appearing before him with gold-silted eyes. The boy saw that the snake's eyes gave a luminous glow behind them within the darkness. Who are you? Sasuke said with the snake smirking at him. I am the one who will lead you to power, but for that to become what you need, you must sacrifice all that tithes to your weakness, the snake said with Sasuke raising his eyebrows. And what would that be? He asked with the snake coiling around his neck, but he remained still and calculating towards the snake. You must cut all the tithes to the light and plunge into the darkness of your heart with open arms. You must be willing to embrace the darkness, feed on the darkness, and become the very darkness that is held within your heart and soul, the snake said with Sasuke looking surprised. But what would be the light? I don't know what it is, he said with the snake coiling again, but this time it was facing him. It is held within this village, as all your holds to the light is bound here to this place and all that stand before it. Your life will not become stronger until you cut down those bounds and break them with your bare hands. You must despise all forms of light and transform into your true self, an embodiment of darkness that only grows in power and is never weakened by the shades of light. But to do this you must accept it all and embrace it all, the snake said before it moved its head back. So now I ask you, Uchiha Sasuke, will you embrace the darkness? It asked with Sasuke looking the snake in the eye. Yes, I will accept the darkness in my heart, he said with the snake smirking before it bared its fangs. Good choice, was all it said before it bit on Sasuke's neck, causing him to awaken from his slumber and scream in pain. His neck glowed a dark red and continued to pulse, as foul purple chakra surrounded his body. He grabbed his head in pain as the purple chakra continued to flow out before he screamed loudly and the chakra ceased. He panted loudly before a smirk came to his face before he looked into the darkness. His eyes glowed a deep purple with some flashes of gold silted eyes appearing before they vanished, and he was left with his regular black. This was what he was craving for so long. This was it, the power that went through his veins like water rushing through an open area within a dam. Naruto, you shall soon die by my hands, and I will gladly take the title as your killer, he said before he fell back into his bed with a dark laugh leaving his mouth. His dark laugh, while unheard to anyone in the village, was heard around the world as it marveled at the new evil that awoke within it. Uchiha Sasuke, the embodiment of darkness. And guys, this is the end. I hope you guys enjoyed it well. Until next time, peace.